Hey guys, hope y'all are having a great day. Today we're going to be talking about a few of the different streaming setups I've used in the past and why you might want to just spend the extra money and get this GoXLR Mini, or maybe do a little trial and error and go with the Beringer Q802 USB. I don't know which one's going to come out on top. You're going to have to watch the rest of the video to find out. One of the best ways for content creators to kind of break out of the mold is to enhance their production value, and there's no better way to do that than enhancing your audio. During my journey as a streamer, I've had a zero budget option, a medium budget option, and as I'm getting into the end game, I've got a bunch of different audio setups, and I wanted to show you guys what each of these looked like so that you know where things are plugged in, how the software is set up, and also give you some pros and cons in order to maybe guide you towards some purchases or maybe even help you with some problems you're having. So I don't know, let's start with the free option. Let's go take a look at the back of my old gaming computer and see what's going on. Looking at the back of the gaming computer in our no mixer setup, we've only got about 3 cables we got to worry about. So going from right to left, that far right cable, the one with the red end, that's plugged into my line in input, and that's directly wired to my streaming PC's speaker output. I use that cable in order to get some of the alerts and other desktop audio coming from the streaming PC and route it to my headphones or whatever on my gaming PC. Going to the left, that Amazon basic cable, that is the speaker output from my gaming computer, and that's actually wired into the line-in audio on my streaming PC. I use that so that I get a little extra flexibility when it comes to routing different audio sources on my gaming PC. Primarily for Discord and microphone output. The last cable we got to worry about is actually our HDMI. And since we're in a 2 PC setup and the HDMI is being captured through my Elgato capture card on the streaming PC, we go ahead and just route all of our basic desktop audio and gameplay audio through that interface, which unfortunately gives us a little flexibility with Voicemeeter Banana, but we'll show you the desktop and how I've got it configured. Now that we're underneath the desk, we can look at the back of the streaming PC, and you can already tell that the cables are flipped. So that right cable is currently wired into my line-in input on the streaming PC, and that's going to be our speaker output from the gaming PC, which should be routed to some of our Discord audio. The next cable, that red cable, is currently wired on the streaming PC at the speaker output, and that's going to be transferring all of our desktop audio, including like music or alerts. That's going to be going into the line-in input on our gaming PC so that we can hear what's going on the streaming PC while we play our games. All right, and then of course we've got our capture card. This is the Elgato HD60 Pro. It's going to be carrying all of our main game audio as well as transferring the video all the way back to our monitor. So that's the back of the streaming PC. Let's go take a look at our Voicemeeter Banana setup. So let's take a look at our Voicemeeter Banana setup. The screen on our left is going to be our gaming PC, and the screen on the right is going to be our streaming PC. Now, since we don't have a mixer and we've only got 2 cables, we do have to be creative with how we've got things wired up. There's plenty of videos out on the internet on how to wire up a 2 PC setup, and this is kind of what I've come up with by using some of those videos. We are going to be using our Samsung Q2U, and that's plugged in through the USB going into my gaming PC, and that is going to be coming in on the left side here. And we've currently got that wired out into A1 and B2. B2 is our primary auxiliary output that we've been using for most of our setups. And then A1 is currently wired out to the speakers, which is the back port on the motherboard. Going to the next signal chain, we've got our cable output, which is how we've got the Discord set up. Again, you can go onto YouTube and find plenty of videos on how to separate out your Discord audio. But the way we've got that wired out, we also have it piped out to our speaker output in the back of the motherboard, but we've also got it piped out to our headphones. That way we can hear the Discord audio as we're playing our games. The line-in input on this motherboard into our gaming PC is going to be carrying all of our alerts and desktop audio from the streaming PC, and we can turn the volume up and down to, mute it or make it a little less noticeable on our headphones, and that's where it's currently wired out. So the middle here for our virtual inputs are going to be our desktop audio sources, and I've only got those output right now to my Elgato capture card, as well as the headphones so I can hear them during my game. I don't have them wired out to my speaker output so that I've got a little more flexibility going into my streaming PC, and I do have my Chrome and browser output put onto this slider so that I can mute any kind of YouTube video or whatever I decide to play on this specific setup. All right, now we're going to look at the streaming PC setup, and it is a little more straightforward than our gaming PC, but I still do have some options baked into this setup to make things a little more configurable. So right now we've got our microphone output or input defined as our line in, and this is going to be our speaker output coming from our gaming PC, and that's just wired out to my auxiliary output through Voicemeeter Banana. I don't usually mess with this volume because I've already adjusted it on the gaming computer. Then after that, I've actually got no other inputs coming into this computer. I don't have the way to adjust the desktop audio from the Elgato capture card through here. I manage that through OBS. And then I do have some options, of course. I can wire out stuff into the microphone, and I can also change the output volumes for my virtual desktops. These get plugged into my line-in input on my gaming computer. So again, my Chrome is going to be managed through this auxiliary input, and then my standard desktop audio is just on the left side here. So it's a little bit more straightforward than the gaming PC, but I do believe I've got plenty of flexibility through software to manage it. So overall, it's kind of confusing. It took me a little while to get all the different setups figured out. The main thing is on the gaming PC. Let's swap back over to that real quick. The main thing here with the gaming PC is making sure my audio sources are split in a way that makes sense and I don't have to keep alt-tabbing out to change volumes. The pros of this setup is it only costs me the cost of two little 3.5 millimeter cables, but the downside is all of these cables and connections can be pretty hard to debug if something goes wrong. Like let's say a program decides to start pumping audio out to a different interface. When I've been playing Rust, I've noticed that sometimes it likes to take the audio coming from the microphone jack as opposed to my auxiliary outputs, my B2. So there can be some flakiness and there can be some confusion regarding where the inputs and outputs are going. But with enough tinkering and stuff, I've gotten this to work pretty well. There's a lot of documentation out on the internet. But again, if you've got to change any of your levels, you have to alt-tab, you have to divert your attention from your stream. It can be a little inconvenient, but inconvenience for the cost of $0 or like $20 max for cables, it might be worth it to some people. So that's my no mixer setup. Let's take a look at what a entry-level Beringer 802 USB looks like. All right, going left to right, top to bottom on my Xenix Q802 USB from Beringer, our first input channel is going to be our XLR microphone. This is my primary mic, my Samson Q2U. I do have the gain set to about 3 o'clock, and then I am applying some levels down below that we can talk about in a little bit. My second mic is not being in use right now. I do have plans to expand to that once we start doing some more podcasting, but having the additional input and the options gives me a little room to grow, which is not something that's inside of the GoXLR Mini at the moment. Going more to the right for channels 3 and 4, this is going to be the stereo input for my gaming computer. It is currently wired out on the back of my gaming computer as the speaker output, and I've got the levels turned down to about 50%. I don't want it to be too loud as to drown out the mic, but I also want it loud enough so that my headphones can pick it up as well. And we got a similar story over here to the next one. This is channels 5 and 6 on the Xenix Q802, but this is my streaming computer. This is mainly going to be getting my alert sounds and any other type of audio that's playing from the speaker output on my streaming PC, putting it into my mix. That way I can listen to all the alerts and all that stuff through my headphones. Speaking of headphones, I do have a 1/4 inch to 3.5 millimeter headphone adapter. This is a stereo connection, but that goes to my Logitech G403 headset, and it provides for me to get real-time feedback from my mic as well as the gaming audio and stuff. So tucked here behind my streaming PC audio inputs is going to be my FX Send output. This allows me to do kind of a mix-minus setup so I can reroute where my microphone output is going. So right now, we did the podcast yesterday. I needed to route out just my microphone to my streaming computer in order to get a unadulterated signal to my podcast guests. But most of the time, this goes out to my gaming computer into that Discord. That way I can provide in-game chat as well as Discord chat all into that cable. All right, the last thing we're going to talk about is the main output. So right now I've got this wired into my line in on my streaming computer, but what I found is on the Beringer Q802 USB, when I plug in the USB and use that as the output, I get some audio hiss, and that's because the ground levels between some components on the mixer and the USB are not the same level. So in order to bypass that, I just removed the USB, but that does force me to use this main out as my main input going into my streaming PC. Right now, this is my gaming PC. It's plugged into a MSI motherboard, but right now we've got the output coming straight from the speakers. It's usually like the green plug on a motherboard, but that's the main output going into my channel 3 and 4. And if I was to feed back the audio from the FX Send, it would go into that port just to the right. It's also called line in. Now we're underneath the desk, and when I've got the Beringer mixer plugged in, I do have several inputs and outputs coming out of my computer. So going from left to right, that pink port, that's the microphone port, and that is actually my FX Send. Remember I was talking about that podcast? Well, this allows me to get my mix-minus microphone output directly into the computer into an easily accessible interface. The next port is the green one, and that is my main speaker output going into channels 5 and 6 on my Beringer mixer. And that allows me to hear any of the desktop audio coming out of my computer. And then lastly is that blue line in port, and that is actually my main out. Left and right stereo coming out of the Beringer mixer into the line in port on my computer. And from there, I'm able to get all of my mix audio straight into my stream. And it's really nice, and it sounds really good. All right, so now that we've got our Beringer all set up with all of our inputs and all of our outputs and our levels set for the most part, the audio setup for our gaming PC and our streaming PC are pretty straightforward. So from left to right, our microphone input, we've got it set to that blue line in that we've talked about before. That would be plugged into our FX Send on our Beringer mixer, and that's got all of our mix-minus set up. The next one's going to be the Discord with the cable output setup. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there, but by doing this, I'm able to route the output of my Discord application into its own different virtual device. And from there, I can control the volume of my Discord without having to affect the mix coming out of my computer. All right, so taking a look at our streaming PC, you can see that the audio from my microphone is bumping around here on the line in. This is the audio coming out of the main out on my Beringer mixer. And right now, of course, you see my microphone bouncing, but it also will bounce whenever we're playing gameplay audio, etc. And then this is an example of how I've got my FX Send routed out right now. So right now, FX Send is pumped into my microphone input on my streaming PC, and it's just going to be that FX Send, the mix-minus output coming out of my Beringer mixer, and there's zero latency when it comes to everything bouncing back and forth. So I really like this setup. It's really ideal for people that want to be routing their microphone to multiple computers. But besides that, it's also really straightforward. I'm pumping all of my output here from my Windows audio to my speakers, which is just the output from the back of my computer, that green port. But I do have through Windows, let's see if I can throw this on screen real quick. I am routing out my audio to Chrome. Overall, I'm really pleased with the Beringer Q802 USB. The main benefit I like from this, or maybe the biggest pro, is I have physical access to all of my knobs. If there's ever a time when I have to like turn the volume down for my gaming PC, or if I have to reroute some of our outputs in order to add an additional source, I can literally just plug it in, turn the knob, and it's pumping out to my stream. And sometimes, you know, in the heat of a stream, it's really nice to just be able to adjust things on the fly without having to Alt-Tab and look at another computer. So that's probably the primary benefit I like from this approach. The primary negative from this approach is I am limited right now on the amount of outputs I have coming out of this. So right now, we just have our stereo main out going, and then I only have the one FX send. So I can only, you know, put one microphone source back into either of my computers. You know, there are a couple different ways you can hack around that, but from a flexibility perspective, I am limited in the amount of audio sources or tracks that are coming out of my mixer. But for 80 bucks, 90 bucks, it's hard to beat this approach. It's a very good middle ground. And the main thing is it gives you access to XLR inputs, and it gives you two of them. So we've got the GoXLR Mini installed in our usual spot where our mixer goes. And as you can see here, we've got our little GoXLR Mini cam set up just so you can see how pretty it looks with the lights. And it actually matches pretty well with the aesthetic for my stream, which is really cool. But what we got here on our next scene is we've got our gaming PC set up, but right out of the gate, plenty of options here. OBS has some of these features baked in, so some of these settings should also sound very familiar to you as well, but I really like having it set up here because if you set it up in OBS, you start to introduce lag. If you put in VST plugins and all that stuff, it can really lead you down a rabbit hole that can be pretty bad. So, all right, so swapping over to the mixer tab, we get to start seeing some of the customization options we get access to with our little 4-slider setup. Over here on the left, you see the faders, and that's going to be the individual, you know, units that we've got here. Channel 1, Channel 2, Channel 3, and Channel 4. They do have, let's swap screens, they do have the name of the input that they suggest for each of the faders, but they are programmable. So if you feel like putting Channel 1 as either your source or your game or your line in, any of your hardware inputs, all you have to do is click on it. It doesn't change how it's routed. It's just changing what the thing that goes up and down, the slider, fader, there we go. It just changes what the fader has control over. And what you can tell is whenever you change the fader up top, it's supposed to change the actual logo as you slide it. So see how I'm sliding the fader up and down? You probably are kind of wigged out why my voice is weird. But the fader logo up top actually changes with our microphone or the fader. So that's pretty neat. And then if you actually change the knob, you can see that up top it changed on the software, but the hardware did not change. So there is a disconnect there. And once you start changing the setting, you have to drop your fader down below where the software is before you can turn it back up. So that's just an interesting caveat you got to keep in mind when you're changing things. And in most cases, you're not supposed to change anything going on with the software, but you'd hate to be in a stream and you accidentally jerk a setting down and then your stream doesn't hear you the rest of the stream, you know. So keep that in mind. For me, channel 2 is going to be my voice chat or my Discord. And the way that works is you can go into your sound settings and then go into your sound control panel. And what happens with GoXLR is it actually creates all these new sound devices. And what's really cool about it is the software itself manages this. So if you think Voicemeeter Banana is great, this is Voicemeeter Banana on steroids. You get your virtual cables built in, you get all of the drivers and everything set up. So it's really nice. So right now I've got channel 2 set to voice chat, and we can define what voice chat actually looks like on the next tab, but you can also set it to game, console, line in, etc. Same settings go for channel 3 and channel 4. We do have the remainder of our settings for our mixer, and if you press the little arrow here to the right, you do see we get a couple extra options here. So right now we only are adjusting the first 4 settings on our menu, but we also have these other devices that the GoXLR provides through the USB interface, and we can control that through the software, but we can't control it through the faders directly. But usually some of the volumes that you're going to change on a more regular basis, set them to these first 4 and then leave some of these other 4 to be kind of static settings. So like line in for me and my two PC setup, I've got that as my desktop audio on my streaming PC for alerts. I don't really need to change that volume, so that makes sense to go there. System audio is just the global system audio from my gaming PC where the GoXLR is attached. I'm just going to leave it where it is. All right, where rubber meets the road, that's the actual routing of all the hardware and the wires you've got hooked up. So here at the top, this is going to be all the different cables you have plugged in to your GoXLR Mini, as well as the different sources that are created by the GoXLR Mini that are connected to the PC that this is hooked up to. Then over here is the actual outputs. So headphones is pretty obvious, it's your headphone output. And then broadcast stream mix, that's kind of this custom mix that you can select which audio sources go into it, and then that goes out to whatever other device you want to plug it into. Line out is just the 3.5 millimeter jack in the back of the unit, and then chat mic is the GoXLR's interpretation of your microphone. So if you wanted to put your mic into different sources or layers, you're free to do that. But the way this works is you just go and click on the grid on the row and column combination you want it to work, and then that input will be routed out to that output. So like right now, my headphones are getting access to my microphone, my chat, my music, game, blah, blah, blah. If I uncheck the mic, of course I don't have my headphones on, but I would no longer be getting any feedback from my mic on my headphones. But this gives you the option of kind of configuring your inputs and outputs based on your setup. I didn't really have to change this too much. Right now we're streaming live and everything works okay. I did some sample recordings. My gameplay sounded okay. You know, it worked pretty good. So if you need any questions, feel free to drop a line at our Discord. Links down in the description below. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. If you don't want to spend a lot of extra money on your streams, maybe going with the Voicemeeter Banana setup is the right thing to do. It is more frustrating, it is a lot more complicated, but if time and effort are worth the investment to you, definitely worth giving it a shot. But if you've got a little bit of extra money to spend, or if you've got plans to upgrade to an XLR microphone, you know, go with an entry-level Mackie or Beringer mixer. You know, it reduces the complexity of your setup by leaps and bounds. I definitely recommend that for any intermediate streamers or entry-level streamers. But if you want to go to the top end, get the GoXLR Mini. It is just so easy to set up. There is no complexity with anything. You just plug it in, install the software, and go. That alone, I think, is worth $250. There are a few downsides with expandability, but if you're never going to do that, it shouldn't be a problem. But tell me, guys, what you think in the video comments down below. I'm really interested in what you have to say. But that's going to do it for me today, guys. I do appreciate y'all watching the video all the way to the end. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and even that little bell icon too. We've got our Final Fantasy Tactics Let's Play series going. I do have some more hardware reviews coming in the near future, so make sure you're subscribed and hope to catch you on the next one. So take it easy, guys. See you later.